My name is Emily. I'm 22 years old and I'm a nursing student. My life is a roller coaster ride between tiring shifts, complicated assessments and demanding internships. But despite all this hustle and bustle, I love what I do. I live alone in a small but comfortable apartment, and although the independence of living alone is incredible, sometimes loneliness sets in. The silence, which is often a shelter, can sometimes weigh down like unwanted company. One day, while I was reviewing some notes for an important test, I received an unexpected message from a very close friend. "Emily, I need a favor." Curious, I asked what it was about, and the answer came right away. My father is recovering from surgery and needs someone to take care of him for a few hours during the day. Would you be up for it? I hesitated for a moment. My routine was already busy, full of commitments. But when she mentioned an extra payment, I saw it as a chance to help and, at the same time, secure some extra cash. The next day, I went to Mr. Williams' house. I knew he was 52 years old, but when I saw him, I confess I was surprised. He was an extremely elegant man, well preserved, the kind who could easily pass for someone 30. As soon as I arrived, my friend welcomed me with a tight hug, visibly relieved that I was there. "Thank you for coming, Emily. He's in the living room." I nodded and went in. And that's when I saw him. Sitting on the couch, with a book in his hands, he looked up at me and, upon seeing me, smiled. It took him a few seconds to stand up, but when he did, his posture was impeccable. He extended his hand to shake mine and, with a welcoming smile, said, "So you're the famous Emily." And at that moment, I felt that this experience would be much more interesting than I could have imagined. "Emily, it's a pleasure to have you here." Her voice was soft, but noticing the way my simple red dress fell, which enhanced and illustrated my figure, my friend showed us around the house, explained where the medicines and foods he liked were, and then left, leaving us alone. The days passed and I got used to the routine, preparing meals, administering medicines, and talking to him about his life, his stories and his dreams. He was a fascinating man, full of stories and experiences, and I began to notice little details. The way he would watch me when he thought I wasn't looking, the way his hands would shake when he reached for a glass of water. One morning, I arrived early and, upon entering, I heard low voices coming from the bedroom. Curious, I approached and saw Mr. William with a beautiful woman. She was wearing some accessories and had some tattoos that represented some symbols that I couldn't quite explain. She was like she had come into the world frozen. I recoiled, but the image stuck in my mind. At breakfast, he seemed tense, but he tried to hide it with jokes and small talk. Over time, the dynamic between us changed. He began to make more personal conversations, to lightly touch my arm as he passed me, to look at me with a gleam in his eyes that I couldn't ignore. I felt torn between the attraction I was beginning to feel and the sense of responsibility that had brought me there. One afternoon, during a massage I offered to ease his pain, the tension reached its peak. He held my hand and, for a moment, the world seemed to stop. "Emily," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I know," I replied, knowing that I was exploring a new garden. "Do you do this with all your patients?" He joked, turning his face to look at me. "Only the special ones," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. My hands began to work on his shoulders and he let out a deep breath. "God, that feels good." I focused on the movements, trying to ignore the heat rising through my body, but he wouldn't let me. "Emily," he whispered, his voice husky. "Yes. You know what you're doing, a great job, and it brings out certain things that are native to nature." I stopped for a moment, my hands freezing on his back. He looked like a biologist explaining life, like a renowned professor. I don't know if I understood. He turned around, grabbing my hand with a strength that surprised me. It was the answer that my work was doing him good. Seeing that evolution made me feel happy. You're making me very happy, you can be sure of that. I know where we can go and I'll tell you sincerely. Today is your lucky day. I'm at Mr. Williams' disposal in a more formal way, showing more awareness. In a few seconds, I was closer to an open soccer field in that room. The cone that had previously fallen was lifted by me after I applied a therapeutic session with my fingers in circular movements that quickly responded during the applied technique. His hands, which had previously seemed tired, now knew a new path in the curves around his waist, as if they were supporting him so he wouldn't fall. Meanwhile, I continued firmly with the cone therapy. It seemed like a close game and I was pumping up the balls with the intention of preparing for the game that was about to start, but I didn't know how long it would last. Maybe we would need to make substitutions to make it through to extra time. Because that day I was super prepared. After spending the 20 minutes of the game in the living room, we allowed him to explore the area around the room and open the way so he could place the cone and touch the ball. The sun was a little hot outside and, as I closed the windows, I felt the light contact groaning softly as it recorded me in the heat of that field. At one point, without boots, playing smoothly with skillful movements, he asked me if he could score a goal. I smiled, just nodded and waited, positioned to receive the explosion of contact. When he threw it inside and went in, it was as if I saw flowers in a beautiful garden. I smiled as I felt the ball pass through my fingers at the same time that the striker celebrated his beautiful goal. I was already tired from playing so much, I didn't even want to take it off. He looked at me smiling, seeing a nursing technician playing the role of a goalkeeper. The field was dirty and dripped into the corners. I quickly cleaned it with the cloth that was nearby and realized how much his physical condition had improved. Later, we talked about the game. My friend would arrive later for a special dinner, and the funniest thing of all is that I was already feeling at home. I felt like a bee that could get honey whenever I wanted. As soon as she arrived later for dinner, she realized that I was excited and that my outfit that was wearing at that moment highlighted every simple curve of happiness, but she preferred not to ask anything, just enjoying that delicious dinner to thank me. After finishing that dinner, I helped Mr. William to lie down to rest. My friend just watched how careful and professional I was and, to my great surprise and happiness, he asked to eat a donut in the middle of the night, because he was hungry. I made it for him in exchange for some hot milk. The next day, very early before she left for work, she gave me a little nudge and asked if I was okay, and of course I told her that I was fine, and that she could count on me whenever she needed help. I said this while Mr. William was observing the little curve just below the waist. It's always good to help others. Did you like this story? So, leave a comment telling us what you thought, and if you've ever experienced something similar, share it with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any new content. Here, we always bring life stories, reflections, and real experiences, all with great sincerity. Thank you for watching until the end and for being part of this journey. See you in the next video.